Action.
All right, so something we forgot to do on the podcast this week was we want to start introducing all of the events for Manitoba's Strongest Man and Woman. So we're going to do that right now, the addendum to the podcast. This year, the first event for Manitoba's Strongest Man and Woman, June 29th in Vida, will be, what is it?
I forget.
The Max Farmers Carry. So it's going to be a very short run, 25 to 30 feet. And what we do is you complete the run, you get a short break while people load on new weight, you go again until people can't go no more. We have a world record holder in the province here, so I'm looking forward to seeing how he can do in that event and train that grip and train your farmers.
Hooray.
Hooray.
Say bye, girlies. Bye.
Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Iron Age Radio. Yeah, we're hard. Let's just throw it out. We'll try again. Iron Age Radio, episode 14. We're here. You can notice that instead
it's
of
episode 15.
Episode 15. We're here instead of the beautiful brown Gian. I have the beautiful brown top strongman coach going today.
Well, you know, I'm right.
Alec Jose.
Hi. Hello, Internet.
Yeah.
All 12 of you.
Hello. Thanks to all 12 of you guys who pay attention to our podcast in Western Canada. We're here doing a special late night sexy podcast here. It's like 9:30 p.m. We've had a very long day of helping the Manitoba Strong... Well, I just sat and watched, but you made the Manitoba Strong Man and Strong Women better today.
That was the goal. It was 2 seminars, 2 different groups, right?
Yeah.
Same seminar, but 2 different lessons.
Yeah.
It was a long day, but honestly, no part of it felt like strenuous at all. It was just a lot of yapping. Like I said to you, it's PR yaps.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it was a good day where I feel like we had competitors that were brand new.
Yeah.
We had competitors who were returning after hiatuses. We had competitors who've been doing this like actively for quite some time now. High levels, low levels, all that stuff. And I really feel like everybody probably left feeling like they got a little bit extra knowledge.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And if they didn't, don't let me know. I'll cry.
Yeah. If you didn't, just pretend you did. And just tell people you did too.
Yeah.
Gian, what do you think about it?
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think we all did.
I had to go home in the middle, but that wasn't because of you guys.
Because how boring I was.
I just needed a moment to myself for a little bit.
Yeah, it's one of those days when you kind of people all over you all day and
stimulus overload.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Yeah, so these seminars for you, are they a new thing? Are they something you do pretty frequently? Or?
I used to do them in the past. About 2-ish years ago, I had quite a bit more of them, and then recently I just started to allow myself to do it again.
Yeah.
I definitely cut myself off from the internet and stuff like that relatively recently, just because. Well, sometimes people suck, but no, it's something that I've done before, and it's funny. I kind of touched upon this a little bit in the seminar. It's so funny to look back on my career, 12 years ago, whatever, when I first started coaching, I never would have thought I could travel to another country and lead a group of 22 people that actually want to hear the things I have to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it be actually useful, it's wonderful. So I really enjoy it. The process is fun. The goal with today's seminar is ultimately try to condense many years of program design into something that's actually palatable.
Sure.
Because, if you go online and let's say it doesn't matter what strength sport you're doing, and you're just an athlete, trying to understand what strength sports science is really difficult. There's so many different opinions. There's so many different thoughts and theories and styles, Soviet and conjugate and cube method and this and that, the other. It's just hard to understand. So my goal was all right, how do I just teach what this strength sport experiment is into digestible bites, and then something that people could recreate on their own. And it initially won't be considered good, but them even having something to create is better than most.
Sure.
And then from there, they can refine on their own. So that was kind of the plan. That was the goal.
And you're a guy who comes in from, you didn't compete in Strongman.
No.
And start coaching
Still don't.
Still don't. Yeah, exactly. And you didn't.
Did one time. Took third.
Did you?
Out of 3.
You didn't start coaching with Strongman in mind, I don't think, right?
Nope. Fuck no.
So I think that's an interesting thing is that you bring in. I think maybe myself included in this group, people get a little bit myopic with some of the stuff where it's I am a strongman coach, therefore I learn strongman things, therefore I pay attention to strongman, and that's kind of it for some people. Whereas for you, it's CrossFit, it's Olympic lifting, it's powerlifting.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, and that's the thing about strongman. The reason why I was so attracted to it in the first place was the reason why I was so attracted to my first job before coaching, which was teaching mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu. I've always loved like these combination sports.
I was gonna say there are parallels between the idea of MMA and strongman.
Yeah, strongman is just the MMA of strength sports.
That's very interesting.
Yeah,
actually.
it's just the hybrid combination of different modalities combined together through these set rules and expression of which has never been done before. Right. And that's really cool. That's what MMA is. That's what strongman is.
That's a very neat concept.
And so for me, like coming into it with a background predominantly in traditional exercise science related to personal training clients, which is just basic understanding of health in general, and then becoming an Olympic weightlifter myself. Not a good one, but someone that trained really hard.
Well, you did it. That's important
did it for years, And then from there, honestly, even in my spare time, I think one thing that really kind of like set me apart or gave me a huge head start with coaching and understanding exercise science broadly was when I was a weightlifter, I traveled around the country and literally lived with some of the best strength coaches in the world because they were good in my 20s. So I was just like, oh, Will Fleming's in Indiana in the middle of fucking nowhere, and I want him to coach me and he's really good. I'm going to DM him like, hey, can I just go live near you and talk to you every day? Which is an insane thing to do. Like if someone like randomly did that and he was like, sure, I guess. And I showed up the next week and I was there for like, I don't know, 8 weeks or something. And I did the same thing with Travis Mash and then another coach.
But that's the thing that you do now with young guys too, right? Like you have that Sturge guy who comes and he's...
Well, I have athletes now who are moving across the country.
I should say that.
To work
not
with me
coaches,
as a coach,
but people who want to sit under the learning tree, as it were. You know.
Yeah, and for me, it's funny. Now that's happening with me with people that want to work with me as a coach, which I think like that blows my mind. I've had 3 different athletes move from different parts of the U.S. just to go to the gym where I'm at, so they go work with me in person, and that blows my mind because like. I think every good coach should have a little bit of imposter syndrome, but I know I certainly do.
Yeah.
And it's almost unfathomable to me. I understand why, logically speaking.
Yeah.
But man, it's really cool. It's really humbling. But anyway, I was just trying to take all that experience that I learned from, my youth and traveling around to different coaches and just learning from them, and so now I'm trying to make it digestible because ultimately all strongman is just these different modalities that require different functions, and the person that can understand strength broadly will be the best coach.
Sure, and you're kind of like, we talked about this a little bit when we were just at dinner a little while ago, but you're sort of part of this like first wave of like AAA strongman coach, if you want to call it that.
Very
you know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
but you know what I'm saying though, where it's like there's always been strongman coaches. Don't get me wrong. But there's guys now who are kind of like the known, like if we're talking about you, Shane German, Big Laws, whatever. There's more, but those are just 3 guys that pop off the top of my head.
Yep.
It's like it's interesting that this is sort of like a new idea, which is not just a guy who's doing your programming, not just a guy who you train with or whatever, but a true coach.
Yeah, it wasn't that's something that's really stood out to me when I first started coaching strongman in 2019. I would go to a local show or amateur nationals for the U.S. and I could count on one hand how many coaches were there in a room of 400 athletes.
Right.
And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And, coming from Olympic weightlifting and prior to that jiu-jitsu and MMA, there's no way an athlete show up to show not have a coach. You just wouldn't see it. It doesn't make sense. So having established a culture of that for myself around my own athletes and creating a team aspect as well, which it's really important to me to have a team and people conduct themselves in that manner. I think that really kind of helps set the tone and set me apart a little bit from other coaches.
Yeah. I mean, purely from like a marketing standpoint, why wouldn't you want to be there as a coach with all these athletes there who could be looking for guidance and leadership? You know what I mean?
And that's how it ended up working. I'd go to an amateur nationals. I'd have, maybe one person win it, 2 other people podium, get their pro cards. And they're like, who are you? I'm like, oh, I'm their coach. I'm here to coach them. Like, wow. And
let's talk.
Every time I'd get a few DMs by people who didn't happen to have coaches at the time or whatever. Yeah. And it just kind of grew from there.
And I've said before too, it's like, it's funny, like other sports where it's like, well, like say like the Super Bowl, the coach is always watching it from his phone at home. Like it's like
exactly.
It's just, you never see that in other sports where it's like acceptable, or like a good 1-for-1 is the MMA stuff. Yeah. They have a fucking corner of guys.
There's like 4 coaches.
Yeah, like there'll be like specific jobs that they all have that they're all watching for, and it's like the idea that you are a guy that's being paid by these people. And I'm not saying you need like you do, but not everyone needs to travel all over the world. But I'm saying if it's like in your fucking backyard, guys sometimes don't do that around here. Where it's like you're gonna sit and watch it from a stream at home. What good are you doing the athlete from home? Like,
Yeah,
what are you doing for
I
them?
could never understand. And like, listen, sometimes you can be limited by money,
Of course,
or whatever,
and
and that's
different.
totally okay.
Yes.
Like especially as a newer coach, like you're so broke. I get it, dog. But if your goal is aspirations to that much higher echelon, you have to do this stuff. You have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And pardon me, the nicotine's hitting me. Nice, it's good.
Yeah, it's good, right? It's Icelandic shit.
Icelandic shit, brother. But I said it to you earlier tonight at dinner. I got to take him out now. I know, it's so funny. Out of the major 4 shows, like the big 4, I was the only coach that was at every single one this year.
Right.
Which baffles me.
That's wild.
It baffles me. Now, in some cases, maybe a coach didn't have an athlete in one of them, so I'm not gonna like bust that coach's chops or whatever. But there were definitely shows where a coach had athletes in multiple shows, multiple of the big 4,
Yeah.
and they weren't there, or they're only at one of them or so.
Right,
I'm
and it's like,
dude,
what could convince you if not one of those shows to be there? You know what I mean? Like, it's like literally the highest echelon
it doesn't
of our
get
sport.
higher.
Like,
It doesn't get higher.
Yeah. So speaking of those big 4 shows, you have a pretty important one coming up with some of your athletes.
I do.
And
The Arnold Classic, brother.
yeah, the Arnold Classic, which is maybe before Smo kind of came, was like considered to be like the show, and I think that there's a little bit of a contention there now, but certainly the top 3 biggest shows there is.
Yeah.
And you have Inez Carrasquillo.
Yep.
And you have Lucas Hatton.
Yep.
Who are both looking for
Gabby Dixon.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Gabby Dixon, of course. I know.
Yep. 3
We
pros.
just, we just talked about Inez all day today. So
Can't sleep on Gabby.
no, and you truly cannot. That's she's an absolute freak of nature. You have 3 people who are looking to really, really make some noise.
That's the goal.
Yeah, like Inez would be considered the favorite, I would think, to win right
It
now.
seems that way.
Yeah, which is awesome. And Lucas is looking for, like, I would say probably his biggest performance yet so far here. Like he's so good at these so many of these events. Like he's
I could confidently say he's the strongest he's ever been now.
amazing, and he's
good.
and he's been strong in the past. So it's gonna be good.
His goal will be to continue that podium streak. And if by some miracle of God, if Hooper trips on a Lego,
Fuck yeah,
maybe
dude.
we take first.
That would be.
He's not going to trip, but I can hope. that guy's real good.
It would, yeah, but he's just, and we're living in this fucking in Hooper's world right now, where it's kind of insane to think that anybody could beat him. But a good showing is a good showing, and if you never fucking know, right? But but Lucas is, he pulled 860 for a double, and Ez just put
880.
880 for a double.
Yep.
And Ez just posted that she hit 380 also
Yeah.
for a double.
Single,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ! Okay, I'm
It's all
sorry.
good.
It's been a long day. A single overhead. Like when I said a 380 single, you might have thought that's a decent little deadlift there, and then all of a sudden it's like, nope, she put it over her fucking head.
It went over the noggin. Yeah.
That's like the numbers that she's putting up are outrageous for for any gender. Never mind for women. It's absolutely outrageous. How do you feel as their coach going into the show? Like, do you feel a pressure, like similar to what the athletes feel when you have athletes competing at this level?
Yes. Ultimately, my own personal goals are to be the best strength sport coach in the world in terms of competition. So going into a major show like this, I'm not even talking about the athletes yet, but even for myself, I also want to perform. I need to make sure that every decision I make for their training leading to the show, because it isn't a lot of time. Right. 12 weeks or 24 weeks might seem like a lot, but it's really not. You have to have a pretty finite amount of sessions you could do. It's incredibly important that I'm on top of it. I'm answering. You guys saw me today, even during the seminar. I was texting Nez to certain lifts.
Yeah.
Lucas texted me. Gabby was texting me. Every decision I make could be a factor that changes not only the trajectory of their career, but their money, for anywhere from like 10 grand to 90.
For sure.
So that's something that I care, that weighs heavily on me. And then we're getting to the more important thing, which is more important than my own goals, is their goals.
Right.
Like, they want to be the best they could possibly be. They want to be career athletes. So yeah, with all those things considered, yeah, there is a pressure. It isn't easy. Like, the more you care, the more you're going to feel that. For
sure.
But that's also the job. And the pressures of my job are better than the best days of a job I don't want to do.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
That's a great way to put it. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It weighs on me, and I love it. And I'm going gray already in my early 30s because of it. But it's fucking cool, man. It's just such a good time. And at the end of the day, I grew up watching the Arnold and World's Strongest Man and all these shows, even though I wasn't I didn't even know you could do it, but I grew up watching strength sports my whole life. And when I get to see these shows now, when I look back now on Arnold's, I see my dumbass in the background running around, and that's such a weird thing.
Jen loves seeing you on the camera.
Yeah, yeah. Every time she sees me, she DMs me. Actually, at shows.
I take a little recording of it.
But that's wild, and I get to be a part of this history, and it's because I'm getting to help these people whom I genuinely love, and it's great.
I mean, how many times? Because you're a strongman nerd too.
Yeah.
How many times have you gone back and watched old Arnold competitions? I'm fucking million times probably.
Every night.
Yeah. So to suddenly be part of this history where it's like we've all watched Mark Henry there, we've all watched Big Z, we've all watched these amazing competitors and these amazing competitions back when it was just like on the expo floor,
right?
Like not the way it is now.
No.
You know what I mean? But back when it was really a sideshow.
Yeah, it was
in the grand scheme of things of the Arnold, and now it's become the biggest part of the Arnolds. I think bigger than I don't know if it's bigger than the bodybuilding. Is it? I don't know.
It feels like it is now.
Yeah, I don't know strictly on like views or anything.
The fact that it's even close is incredible.
It is. Yeah, that's absolutely true. It's a bodybuilding expo put on by a bodybuilder.
Right.
The best bodybuilder
and
of all time.
his favorite show is the Strongman part.
Right.
In
exactly.
the expo, which I'll say it for Arnold. I think it is.
I mean, he seems to enjoy it the most.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing to see. And we talked about, say, the stress that you kind of deal with, where we talked about in this seminar earlier, that Inez is now like a career strong woman. She's made a change recently to be like, I'm quitting my job and I'm now a strong woman.
She's the first full-time strong woman,
which is like amazing, and who better? But and like Lucas Hatton's the same thing, right? He has a like the gym, which is like at this point would be like a side hustle for him, I guess.
Yeah, he's a full-time strongman.
Full-time strongman. So now that it's an interesting thing for you, where you've gone from coaching people where it's like a hobby in the literal sense.
Yes.
No matter how seriously they take it, it's a hobby, right?
Yeah.
To now being like, these people's careers are in my hands. It must be like that's. I can understand where the stress comes from.
It's fucking wild, dude. Yeah, this every decision I make affects their bank accounts,
right?
Now.
Yeah, like
and whether they
can
could afford to feed themselves or put their son through a good school, or like it's a pressure. It's a lot.
It's cool. It's a very cool thing. And then it's funny with the.
I wouldn't change it for the goddamn world.
Love it. With Inez, I told you this earlier, but Throne said, when you said that she's quitting her job and now this is going to be her full deal, Throne's like, oh shit, like no one's going to beat her now. Like this was not her main focus, and she was already a dominant, force.
No, she was working 40 to 50 hours a week and still
wild.
Like she won the Rogue.
What was she, like a pit fighter, or like what was her like?
She's always worked essentially in like admin roles. Sitting at a computer all day.
She's just
hating
so
it.
gnarly. Like I wanted to be like a fucking bouncer.
Yeah, no, she was answering customer service emails with hand tattoos.
What?
She is very nice though, so I could see that. Yeah, she's
and to be fair, she's had a very real rough upbringing in early life, hence the aesthetic, if you will. Sure. But no, she had a very normal 9 to 5, and
now she has the least normal 9 to 5.
Yeah, now she.
I wish you guys would have seen the moment that Throne said that. Because when Alec was like, "Oh yeah, she's doing this full time now," Throne's like sat up real straight and he goes, "She'll never lose again."
Yeah, she'll never lose again. Yeah.
Well, that's certainly the goal, and honestly, you could never put it past anybody. Somebody always has somebody's number on a certain day.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
No, we say that, but she is in an incredible place right now physically, and I would like, she's just, as an athlete, she's ridiculous. Yeah. But there's so many good women right now.
Yeah,
like,
and the goal is just to make it really hard for them.
Yeah, she's in my mind right now, she's the strongest woman in the world in the with a field of the strongest women that have ever lived.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and the most skilled too.
She's one of the best, I'll say, because there's still, at the end of the day, there's still 2 true world titles for women. It's the Arnold and Rogue. And she only has one of them.
Sure, that's fair.
Angelica Jardine is the other true champion. And, Nez's goal is to take both.
Yeah.
She'd be the first athlete to do it. So.
And, those two as, battling champions is such a cool idea. Because
can't ask for better people, too.
So sick, yeah. And, that's cool.
AJ's one of the sweetest people on the planet. AJ actually trains at the gym that I coach at full time.
Yeah.
She trains there. I love being around her. Her coach is a good buddy of mine named Zach McCarley. The greatest American 105 of all time.
Keep your eyes open for that one. We're going to probably get in contact with him for a seminar in the future.
As I hope that happens. But yeah, so it's fun just to be around all of these people constantly. And Nez's goal is to be the best, and hopefully we make it happen. And Lucas's goal is to be the best, and I know we can make that happen. So it's an interesting time.
I like it because with you and with Lucas, I don't really know Inez. I've spoken to her a couple times, but that's it. When you guys say something like, or when Lucas says like I'm going to be the best, it's not like a pie in the sky thing that he's like he truly wants that and believes that. I think he's
but he didn't always. I remember when I first met him. I'm trying to keep it together right now. These Zins are kicking my ass. Or these not Zins, but anyway, when I first met him, it was 3.5 years ago.
Right.
He started working with me 3.5 years ago. He was an amateur. I think his best log was like 350. Strong local guy
for sure,
but kind of just
absolutely.
A portly, good local guy.
Yeah.
Which how many of those do we know?
A lot, yeah,
a whole lot. And I remember when I first met him, I generally, if there's a skill that I have as a coach that I know I'm talented in this one area, and I try not to give myself compliments often because I'm not good at it and I hate it, but I know I'm good at spotting talent and ability. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the person's going to do it, but I'm pretty freaking good at spotting. Like, you could do this. And I think it just comes from like the 15 years at this point teaching movement in some various form. But when I met Lucas, I remember I told him, I was like, you can not only be one of the best, but there are certain shows that I know you could consistently win. I remember I told him the Arnold is one of them. Right. And at the time, Shaw didn't exist, but that's also one that I think now that he could win.
Yeah.
I was like, you have the ability. And he looked at me, he's like, you're full of shit, dude. Like, he's like, you're out of your goddamn
You're a great
mind.
salesman. That's
Yeah, right, exactly.
Himself, yeah.
But no, he hired me anyway, and I remember I told him, I was like, your timeline is this. In 2 years, you're going to be one of the best, and in 3 years, there'll be a major title that you will win. My theory is that it'll be the Arnold. And right now, we're 3.5 years in, and we're right on track for that.
The closest, yeah. And that's what I mean when I say that. When someone says, just Strongman X says, I'm going to be the best or whatever, yeah, maybe. But when Lucas says it, he's there's been a thought process behind it. There's been work put into it, and it's not just saying words. It's like I'm telling you the end of a plan that we have.
Yeah,
and it's a really cool fucking thing.
Yeah, we're both pretty. I'm definitely more irrational than he is. I'm pretty an emotional guy, but we're both fairly, relatively speaking, pragmatic guys, and we very much think in patterns and structure. And for us, it's like, all right, well, we just need to create the system. Like, you already have the inheritability, the genetics, the upbringing that encapsulated the perfect upbringing in terms of sports to elicit these responses. But now it's just creating a system to go about it. And that's, funny enough, what we talked about today in the seminar. But someone like him, I think he could do it. Will he? It's entirely up to him at this point. But that's the goal. And I think he's capable. I know he can win at least a couple majors. Yeah, that's the goal.
And what you touched on a little bit before was the gym that you work out of and train at and everything.
Yeah.
Seattle is suddenly, it seems suddenly to an outsider, maybe it's not so sudden, but has suddenly become a real hub of strongman in a way that I can't think of much else to compare it to besides like Ohio for powerlifting.
Yeah.
It's where, example. Yeah, where it's there's suddenly so many
or Georgia for weightlifting.
Sure, yeah. There's so many people coming out of this gym, or at least this area. We talk about just your gym alone. We have Lucas, we have Aaron Murray, we have you as a coach out of there. We have these young guys that you're bringing up. We have so many of the women that are so good. Angelica Jardine is there. Like
there's Rachel Peterson, who's a pro. Dan Hughes came out of there originally, got his pro card there. Patrick Castelli, who's the greatest 80 kilo of all time, came out of that training group. Grant Higa started the group. Jesse Morunde, who took second at World Strongest Man, came out of this
absolutely.
group.
I don't think I knew that, actually.
Oh, yeah. The pedigree and history out of the Pacific Northwest is insane, and the epicenter of it now is Dungeon. There are days where there are more pros or world champions in the room than regular gym members.
It's insane.
At any given moment, there can be anywhere from 6 to 12 pros.
That's ridiculous.
It has.
Yeah.
And to get a pro card in the American system is very difficult. So to accomplish something like that is quite the feat.
Yeah, and that
all goes, not to interrupt you,
No, please.
But all of that comes down to the insane hard work
right.
and ethic and community building of Saul Peterson, Ryan Terry, and Lucas.
Those are the gym owners. Yes. And that's kind of what I was gonna get to with that, is that the sense of community and like a pattern of excellence that you guys have there, which is you guys. It's not like all these great guys and girls were like, let's all move to Seattle. Yeah. They started as regular competitors that got together,
just local talent.
Yeah, and they became great together or independently of each other, whatever. But with this atmosphere that
it was together.
There you go. Okay, so this atmosphere that builds and helps, and then in Strongman too, like, everyone knows, the Strongman Saturday and how important it is to have the sense of community and
And
group.
that's what started it for them, yeah.
Right, and that's it's just an amazing thing where that's what we have a pretty strong sense of strongman community here in Manitoba and in Canada in general. I think where like I know like most people who do strongman.
Yeah.
You know,
also
what I mean?
Gabby Dixon's up there too.
Right,
She
yeah,
lives
okay.
in Portland, just south of it.
Okay, so yeah, I knew that she wasn't in Seattle there, but yeah, that's
Just 2 hours south.
so it's a really cool thing to see that this like when a group decides like this is like we're going to be it, like this
Yeah.
is going to be a big fucking deal here. It can become that, you know.
Yeah, it's happenstance. It's driven individuals. It's community building,
Right.
and a whole lot of luck.
Yeah,
You know
sure.
what I mean?
And that's
And a
something
whole
to
lot
that
of
too.
luck.
Yeah, for sure. And it's awesome too because you guys have it's not a male dominated
No.
atmosphere you guys have there. In fact, the women are
Are more accomplished.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
Between Aaron and AJ,
Yeah.
and Gabby in certain aspects, but I'd say predominantly Aaron and AJ. They're the most accomplished athletes out of the Pacific Northwest are women, and then you got Jessie Morinda who takes second at Worlds.
yeah. Gabby Dixon doesn't maybe have the buzz right now that say like Inez does. I've obviously won the Rogue or Jardine with the Arnold, but if anybody doesn't know who Gabby Dixon is, this is somebody that you need to be paying attention
She's very
to.
good. You know, she's third strongest in North America.
Yeah.
She took fifth at Worlds when it was more competitive, I should say, much to the dismay of some people, but for 3 years straight.
But not to get too fast past North Americans, the Hercules hold there.
Oh, Giants Live.
Oh, excuse me, Giants Live.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
she did that
I'm sorry.
Giants Live.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
my mistake.
Yeah, she's beaten every modern day World Strongest Man winner on the Hercules hold. The only person that beat her in the last year was Mark Felix.
Mark Felix.
Yeah.
Who is-
And with the exact same weight, the
Yeah.
exact same setup.
That is insanity.
Yeah, it's
Like,
bananas.
That's amazing.
It's bananas.
Yeah, that's like it's an exciting thing to see. And when we talked about this a little bit in the past, where it's like the past.
And she only called me
yesterday.
crying once today.
Hey, there we go. That's
I
great.
love you, Gabby.
We've so barely scratched the surface of like female strength sports. Like when we think about like how like World's Strongest Woman only existed like less than 30 years ago.
Oh, significantly less than that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a different iteration where if you watch World's Strongest Woman from say like 2002, I think, or 2004 maybe.
Yeah.
It's all the wives and girlfriends of strongmen. You know what I mean?
And like
it's-
random powerlifting champions.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
whatnot.
absolutely.
But that was the beginning.
That was
Yeah.
the genesis of it, right? And
Yeah.
and now we're living in this like, I don't want to say that it's like the golden age because I only want to see it get better and bigger. But we're certainly living in a very high watermark right now.
Oh, it's incredible
for women's
right
strength
now.
sports.
It's more entertaining than the men's right now, not because the men's aren't entertaining, but because out of the top 6, any one of them could win one of the majors.
It mixes it up way more.
It makes for such a competitive feel to watch. It's so entertaining.
Yeah, we
because of
watched
that.
the Rogue yesterday, just chilling at home. Yeah, it was funny because you were like, oh, like we sat and watched Strongman. You're like, oh, like I don't want to be like dominating and putting on Strongman. I'm like, dude, this is exactly what me and Jan do. Like we just sit and watch. Like I sat and watched like Fortissimus for the 50th time.
Oh,
like,
I love that show.
That's my favorite competition.
Same.
I wish
It's my
they had
all-time
one.
favorite.
Really? Yeah,
Yeah.
mine too. Yeah,
This
I really,
is when Alex is just like the best house guest ever because he puts on exactly what I want to watch anyways, and he goes, "I'm sorry for putting this on. What do you want to watch?"
and it was really fun to watch it with you too, because it was like watching a movie with like the director DVD commentary on it. That's the way I kind of compare it.
That's so funny.
Because we're hearing,
I guess that's true,
It
yeah.
was cool because we're getting insight into like Inez's performance throughout the day. We're getting insight into what you were kind of seeing from other athletes in the back and how they were prepping for things. And like, you know, you pointed out that Hooper hurt his bicep on the axle. I didn't notice that the first time that we watched it, and it was really fun to watch it with that sort of different insight and like the experience of someone who was right there. We saw you on the thing in your red shirt, you know.
And that's kind of honestly, it's part of the job at this point now that I enjoy the most is like I get to live the history, and I'm actually participating. And it helps that I happen to be okay at my job, but man, is it so cool to be a part of it on that level and it's so intimate and extreme, and the decision making's like, oh man, after every major show, I'm in the back crying somewhere, like because it's such an emotional dump.
I'm sure,
Dude,
yeah.
after
the dump
man,
afterwards,
after the Shaw Classic, when we locked in third, battling against Austin Andrade, dude, I was literally on the floor in the back war room crying for maybe like 10 minutes straight. Like it's such an emotional dump and stimulus.
Absolutely.
I remember Grant Higg had to come over and pick me. I was like, dude, you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not okay.
I will be, but not right now.
Yeah, and then Grant started crying, and then I cried harder.
Oh, man.
It was so ridiculous.
It's a powerful thing, man. It's a powerful thing to see your work pay off like that.
Yeah, and there's such a small group of people at the top, if you're including athletes and coaches, that like it's very intimate.
Sure.
You know, and
sure.
you're all trying to beat each other, but you all care to an extent. It's a very it's quite the emotional ride.
Right, and you said that you're a guy who appreciates and respects the history of strongman.
I love it,
and that's why I've really enjoyed this weekend of hanging out with you, because I get the same sort of experience hanging out with, say, like Wes or Jeffers, where they're big nerds about strongman history. For them, especially, that they have the Canadian element to it, so it's fun to talk to them about that kind of stuff. But for a guy like you too, where it's like, you know, a lot of, and like when we can find a guy who can go tit for tat with Thrones on strength sports stuff, like, that's really something. So it's fun to sit there and chat that with you, and then to see, like, in person, like, how much this stuff does mean to you, and it's not just a job. It's not.
No, I would be doing this even if I couldn't do anything. Right. You know, if it wasn't my job. Right. I just I'm extraordinarily lucky in that the thing that I fell in love with the absolute most just happens to pay my rent now.
Yeah.
And that is an extraordinarily lucky, is simply put, position to be in. Yeah. It's not common. It's such a hard thing to do. Most people have to go to a job and then just hope they have enough time at the end of the day to really feed their own passion. Mm-hmm. And yeah, man, I'll do this until I die. Like, there's really nothing else that, frankly, I'm good at and want to do. I always refer to myself as a bit of an idiot savant. Like, outside of this, I'm truly a useless human being.
So, getting it with a little bit of the nerd history stuff of strongman, there's a couple questions that I wanted to ask you that in regards to the history of the sport. Who is, not the best, who's your favorite of all time?
Oh, favorite athlete of all time. You know, let me think about that. There's one that comes to mind immediately, but I want to really kind of sit on that for a moment. You know, dude, it might be Anna Florczyk, which I don't think anyone fucking knows who that is if I say that name. Yeah, Anna Florczyk won World's Strongest Woman twice. She would have won it for a third time. I'm pretty sure she actually might have won it for a third time, but at the time, it was labeled under a different competition name because, like, some other company bought the rights.
Sure, yeah.
But in my opinion, she's actually the greatest of all time.
Interesting.
A lot of people would argue maybe Donna Moore or a few others, and that's totally great arguments for that. But I think Anna Florczyk, because she was an athlete that she came from a different sport. I believe she initially competed in weightlifting, got into strongwoman, won it 2 or 3 times, the world title, and still had a full-time job, had kids, was from Europe, and it wasn't her full existence, but she would show up and win. And that back in time when the events were very strange and weird events, and she barely got to compete against what I would consider the modern age of strongwomen, which that initial first wave would say women like Donna Moore, Kirsten Rhodes, Jess Fithen to a degree, and a few others. But Anna was before them, and she really was just a powerhouse. And she wasn't particularly big either. Right. She's probably only about 98 kilos, 5'9", 5'8", which is larger woman, but not like what's happening now.
No, yeah.
And she was just incredible. So I might say Anna Florczyk might be my favorite of all time.
Awesome. Okay, well, you kind of flipped the script a minute on that one, because I was going to be like, well, what about the female side? So let's say, what about the men's side? If you were to go back in time.
Man. And not necessarily because they're the greatest, but someone that I truly enjoy, because I think they're a fucking psychopath, and how they went about things I would never encourage, but man, did I love to watch it. Derek Poundstone.
I do. As soon as you started that description of it, I bet he says Derek Poundstone. Yeah.
Derek Poundstone is a madman. He's an East Coast guy, so I'll always have a special place in my heart for him. Yeah. You know, New England dude, Northeast.
World's strongest cop.
World's strongest guy. World's strongest, a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
But no, Derek was just, because he doesn't. First off, he looked like a Greek god.
Yeah,
but he was only like 5'9", 5'10".
He break the baseball bat over his knee.
Dude, like,
cool shit like that.
His wrists were like the size of my kneecaps.
Yeah,
like he's just giant joints, so strong, and his mindset in regards to training was absolute lunacy.
Yeah.
But oh my God, is it so cool to find out a human could do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he is, even still to this day. I truly believe that Derek, to this day, in his late 40s, could show up to an America's Strongest Man and be top 5.
Really? That's
to
so
this
sick.
day.
That's awesome.
He's still in incredible shape for no fucking reason.
Right.
And is so strong. He's just a remarkable human being.
So a lot of people call him the best to never win World's Strongest Man. Would you, or a major title, I should say? Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't agree with it, because he won the most important title in the world.
Fortissimus.
That's right.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, he won the hardest goddamn title is to win.
I agree. I love Fortissimus. I watch that one all the time.
That last event, him against Adrianus. favorite part of that event, besides the fact that he loaded the unloadable stone,
Yeah.
was if you watched the event, you could see Zadrunas is right behind him,
Yes.
staring at the timer. And the moment Derek fails to beat Zadrunas' split time, he preemptively starts
Yes.
cheering.
Which is a very
And
weird thing for Big Z to do. You don't really see him get like
you never see
excited,
him like
you
that,
know?
but I think he knew, like, oh my God, this man's pushing me.
Yeah,
and he did.
yeah.
But Derek did not give a damn.
No.
He just stuck with that stone, just loaded it like a lunatic, and it was just so cool.
to beat Big Z in like
Peak Z.
yeah,
Peak Z.
and in a super heavy competition too.
Yeah.
There's no bullshit about that one.
12
what I mean?
events?
Yeah, like
Something insane?
absolutely absurd. That was such a fun competition. I love that competition.
Yeah, so probably Derek.
Okay, so then there might be crossover in this answer, but I have another one here for you too.
Sure.
If you could pick an athlete from Strongman, and we can go male or female or both. I don't care. An athlete from Strongman history past that you could work with, like, and let's say like you're full time their coach now.
Right.
Who would you pick for that? Who do you think you could help the most? I guess.
You. No. No.
Well, I got good news, buddy.
Yeah. No. See, that's an interesting question. It's a fun question. I would like to preface, though, like, because I don't want to say me working with them would have made them better.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
You know what
I'm
I mean?
saying
'Cause
that you feel like you would have had a good synergistic effect with. That's
okay, sure.
That's
So
what
I would have a good relationship with. Who would
Yeah.
I want to work with? Oh man, because it all really comes down to personality, right?
Sure.
That's a fun one. Honestly, probably because it would have been a bit of a challenge to tame him. But I think if I had buy-in, it could have been a really fun relationship. Maybe Kiliaskowski.
Interesting.
Yeah, maybe Kiliaskowski or even someone like Novikov.
Yeah,
Because
I
they're
like
so
Novikov.
technically orientated.
Yes.
They're from the Eastern Bloc, and the training system and strength sport history is so rich there that they understand the value
Yes,
of learning,
sure.
and they respect it. You know, so I would say maybe one of those.
You
two.
and Novikov would be a dream team, I think, in that way.
I think it would have been really fun.
Yeah,
Is what I say.
yeah.
And he's a fun guy, and he's obviously so talented. But I think Novikov would have been really fun too. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was kind of thinking, like, I thought I was going to ask you this question today, and I was kind of thinking of my own for that. I think that Koklev would be a fun one for you too.
Koklaev?
Yeah,
Oh,
where like
dude.
just with the Olympic lifting background.
He's a
and,
wild
like,
man.
Yeah,
though.
and,
I don't know if anyone could tame that horse.
and that's the thing is that he was so interesting to watch because you just kind of got the impression that he was just like he would miss something and he'd be like, I don't give a fuck. Like this, it's a strong man. I don't really give a shit. You know what I mean?
And
Like
that's one of the things too that even now he talks about openly, that he didn't work hard.
that's what
Like, he could have been more focused.
Yeah, I got the sense that this was like a fun side project for him. Like he'd be at the
Yeah.
biggest shows in the world and be like, well, you know, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
And
kind
just
of, you know?
casually hit podium or
Yeah,
sometimes almost
yeah,
win.
yeah.
And what's interesting, at least in my opinion, he is the greatest strength sport athlete of all time for men. Of
That's-
any sport.
Yeah,
Of
I
any
mean,
strength
that's-
sport. And I put him above Piros Dimas, Naim Samalamalu, any of these greats from different strength sports. Milenichev, I put him above them because he went across the full spectrum.
Yes.
And hit international top 3 quality in all of them at one point.
Yeah.
Who the hell is doing that?
He's a guy that I feel like not like he doesn't get a lot of love in the modern conversation. I feel like. And,
Well, a lot of the stuff he did, fortunately, was filmed, so we
Yeah.
could reference these old
Yeah.
videos and whatnot. But it was still before like the big internet boom.
Absolutely.
So I just don't think people realize. But I would
Yeah.
say Koklev is just truly one of the greatest ever, if not the greatest strength sport athlete.
there's very few opportunities to watch him on like a TV. Like a TV show competition, like say Fortissimus is one that he did, and he did a couple World's Strongest Man, but like there's not like the Arnold's wasn't on TV at that point, and he did the Arnold's, and
I don't think it was. I honestly don't remember. I don't think
I
it
don't think- I
was.
don't
But
think it was.
but I think for him the biggest issue was, especially the type of person that he wasn't going to be aggressively pushing social media.
No.
And it was in its infancy
Yeah.
at the time. Like,
English was so for him too, so he
Right.
wasn't didn't get interviewed a lot or anything. And,
Yeah, so, but yeah, he definitely, I feel like he could get more love for what he did. And just as a side note,
Yeah.
I think Tia Toomey is the greatest female strength sport athlete of all time. Just want to throw that in there.
I love it. No, we want to know that.
Holy shit. The things that she's done is incredible.
Koklev is from one of my favorite eras of strongman, where they would have somebody doing like the interviews, whatever. So it'd be an interviewer who English is their second language, interviewing a competitor who English is their second language in front of an African crowd or something.
Right.
It's just
Such a wild dichotomy. Yeah.
I love that about old strongman stuff, and it's kind of like a exclusive to strongman sort
And he
of
would
thing.
just sing and dance and get everyone going.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
You go back to Fortissimus, but his dumbbell snatches that he was doing in Fortissimus were fucking amazing.
It's like, what is happening?
Yeah,
right
like
now?
it's just like if I would have seen that live, I think I would just shit my pants. Like I don't know what else you could do with that.
What was really fun at North America Strongest Man, for those that haven't been, please go. It's actually I still think North America Strongest Man is either number one or number two for the best strongman show on the planet.
Really?
Oh,
cool.
Yes, hands down, I'll make that argument against any major show. The environment is insane. It's so much fun. It's true strongman, and it's like original roots with like the way the JF picks the events and how they go about it. But then the crowd is zealous.
It's that Quebecois crowd, man.
Dude, those French Canadians, no one loves strongman more than them, and they appreciate the hell out of it. So, but why did I bring that up? Oh, right. One of the main directors, in terms of because it's put on TV, or at least for in Quebec, and one of the main directors, the guy that films it, was the director for Fortissimus.
Oh, really?
Which, when I found that, I was like, dude, we have to talk.
That's awesome.
We have to just talk.
Oh,
what was it like? Yeah. He was the guy, yeah.
Well, I met the guy, Sam is his name. He did like the commentary.
Oh, cool. You did meet him.
Super Sam. So he came and did he was here with the stream of the Gimli Magnus qualifier.
Oh, nice.
The first year, and it was the same thing where I was like, man, like I got to talk to you about this shit. Like I think that he appreciated somebody who gave a fuck too. So it's nice to have those. I've always been so I have a background with professional wrestling.
Yep.
And I was always more excited about the small time. That's not nice to say, but the guys who aren't the major players that people would think about, but who were instrumental to this shit. And it's just like guys who had never been stopped or talked to or whatever. I was like, that's the guy that I have to fucking go pay attention to. You know what I mean? I love that shit. North America's Strongest Man. So speaking of that, you brought up an interesting fact, because you've suddenly amassed an army of Canadian strongmen.
Canadian pros.
Yeah.
Like 4 of them all reached out which is funny, within like a week of each other.
Are we cool to say everybody who's...
Yeah. At this point, it's Larson, yourself, Jeffers, Yannick, and Ben Court.
Ben, so we have 5 right now.
Yeah, 5 Canadian pros.
And so we're talking about how you have 5 Canadian... sorry.
Yeah.
You have 5 Canadian pros now.
Yeah.
And an interesting stat you pointed out about North Americans was...
Yeah, I'm going to have more Canadian athletes than American athletes.
That's awesome.
Which is wild, because last year I dubbed myself as Team USA's coach.
Right.
Because I had every American that podiumed I coached was Nez, Gabby, and Lucas.
Right.
And now the odds are probably be flipped now. I have all these Canadian pros, and some of which have aspirations of hitting podiums, which is so funny. I'm gonna have to get like a Canadian Maple Leaf jacket to wear as a Canadian coach,
Absolutely.
and then like a USA one.
It's gonna be very deep conflict there.
Yeah, leave it to some random Puerto Rican guy
to
be the team coach for USA and Canada.
I mean, technically there is an American connection there, but you're kind of in your own third party over there, so I feel like there's less of a conflict of interest there, which is nice.
Yeah.
I don't think we should rule out tearaway pants either.
Yeah, I think maybe
Yeah.
we should consider that as like a Team RP 11 thing for North Americans.
Oh yeah. Well, what I'll do is I'll wear American flag like tearaway pants, and then when you guys go up, I'll have a Canadian leaf thong on.
Nice.
I'll rip it off.
You know what we should do too is that as they announce us, we walk up and you rip our pants off,
Right.
and then we walk to the
Yes,
thing.
yes, for
that would be
sure
cool.
that.
Yeah.
I don't mind being canceled again.
that would be tremendous. But you have a couple of guys from out east who are like, so everyone who listens to this knows who Jeffers is, and they probably know who I am too. And Lars is a guy you have too now.
Yeah.
And everyone is probably familiar with him, but you also have Ben Court.
Yep.
And Yannick, French last name.
Yep.
Yannick B. I know what his last name is. I just
Boucher?
Boucher.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, that's
That's an easy one.
I mixed him up with another Yannick I know. That's so embarrassing. Okay, but who's also Yannick B, which is weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, Yannick Boucher, who's deadlift maniac,
Yeah.
grip maniac.
One of the best yoke runners in the world.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, like undoubtedly. Ben Cord, who is also a deadlift maniac.
He's just so strong.
He's just a really strong guy, and both those guys really just needed a direction, I think.
Yeah, they had, I would say, decent coaching before, and it's multiple different forms, and I'm glad I had the opportunity now to help, frankly, all of you guys out, seemingly all at once. You all reached out basically all at once, which is so funny. It's so funny. Within a week each other, I have a group chat with the team's RP11 group chat. I remember you were the first Canadians to reach out.
Yeah.
And then like a couple of days later, it was like another 2. You're like, oh, hello, boys. We all have the same thought. And then a couple of days later, a couple more. You're like, what's going on right now?
Great minds think alike, I gotta say. But it's really exciting to see I think it's cool to see that these guys are taking their, and like you said, they had coaching before, and don't get me wrong, they progressed and got better.
I mean, whoever coached them before, whether it was themselves and others, got them to where they are.
Absolutely,
That was not
absolutely. But it's exciting to see guys who are taking a different direction. So are obviously thinking about like different ways to get to the goals that they want to get to.
Sure.
And they see you as a big part of that puzzle, obviously.
Yeah, and it's something that I take super seriously. That also comes with more pressure because I want to prove that the system is good beyond just. Well, I've already proved that, to be honest. I don't know what I'm saying, but it's nice to expand.
But you're always proving it, right? You're always
you always have to work hard.
Yeah,
it's really fun. And I was telling you guys earlier, like the Canadian strongman scene genuinely might be my favorite.
Right,
I love the American scene. Obviously, I'm very enthralled in it.
Of course,
but I fucking love coming up to Canada for the shows, the athletes. Like they just live and breathe it up here, and there's. Frankly, less bitching, less just nonsense. It's really cool.
Just wait till you meet some amateurs, then you'll see what the bitch is at.
That's fair.
No, but I think that you have a good group of guys too that are all going to be very like hard nosed. Like they're going to do the stuff that you give them to do. And
Well, it was so funny. Canadian pros that reach out to me are the only people where I start the conversation with, listen, whatever shows you think you're going to do, you're not. And if you don't want to be an assistant part of that, I totally get it. I respect that. But we are not doing 8 shows in a year. You're out of your fucking mind. We actually have to train.
So that's kind of the thing is that like people who are in the Canadian system might not recognize like because it's just all that we know like how much we compete.
It's bananas. It is actually the Canadian system can be best described as almost like the Bulgarian system in the 70s and 80s, and that like if you survive, you'll be amazing. You'll be amazing if you could live through these shows.
Yeah.
If you could JF Corona your way.
Well, there's guys like I remember Dave Nolay told me I think it was a couple years ago now that he did like 5 shows in the course of like 5 weeks. It was something insane like that where he just did a competition after a competition after a competition, and it's. You don't have to convince these guys to do that. That's just
they
like,
love it.
They love doing it, and it's a very interesting sort of system they have over there.
You didn't have to ask them. Like they would just
They would just
hear
it.
you say there's a show, and they would go, where?
Yeah, I remember when me and Jeffers were first going to CSM, and there was a show the day after CSM. So CSM was 3 days, and then there was another pro show immediately after that. And in hindsight, I'm kind of thankful for it, honestly, because I just don't think I could have handled it one more day. But I couldn't stay out there one more day. I had to come back. And I remember Jeffers being like, I don't know, man, this seems like it's just a lot. Like I'm gonna talk to JF, whatever. And he said to him, like, I kind of have a lot going on this year. Like these are all the competitions that I have. And then he said, JF just said, that's not a lot. And he was like, all right, I guess I'm doing this fucking show.
And I know Maxime, I think it was the year that Maxime won.
Yes.
And he did it too.
Yep.
Like the whole podium showed
Everyone
up.
did it, yeah.
I was like, you guys are just built different.
Yep, the
You guys
twins,
are just
Wes, Jeffers,
incredible
Sean,
athletes.
Sean Hayes, yeah.
Sean Hayes.
Everybody went and did it. And I said this before on here, but like, I said to Jan, I was like, man, I'm going to have the worst fucking FOMO. I'm going to be like, everyone's going to do this thing, and I'm going home, and I fucking didn't. I was so happy. I was like, we can have some drinks, and we can hang out, and we can stay up late tonight.
But it was so funny because he said to Jeffers, that's not a lot. And then JF asked Tyler and said, are you going to do the show tomorrow? And you were like, oh, no, I have to work.
See, I had the right answer.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like he just respected that.
He respects a man making money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's just about his money. So he gets it. And
this is me not saying that the Canadians, they do it wrong. I'm not saying that.
No, it's
but
just...
for the way at least that I coach and the system that I like, listen, like guys, we have to dedicate many months at a time to just building a base, and competing will get you incredibly good at competing.
Right.
It does not get you stronger.
And there's also a thing too where a lot of these guys like the Quebec guys especially, like they love competing on the strongman circuit and
awesome.
the Canadian strongman circuit, and that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about the guys who want to take that next leap to something bigger or whatever, it's just not necessarily the way to do that.
Yeah, it's not the way that I go about it.
Sure.
And I just feel as though there's more predictable outcomes to be determined by just really dedicating yourself to a strength system in which you could almost guarantee certain results every time you go to a show. And that's kind of like the way they like to go about it, because I'm constantly thinking about longevity. We talked about how like now I'm coaching people that this is their career.
Right.
Well, we got there because we turned a lot of shows down. Like I know what my athletes are capable of, and I know the risks and reward that I'm willing to expose them to. And I'm just terrified of people getting hurt, man. And I understand, like, for some cultures, it's like, oh, well, getting hurt's just a part of it. It really shouldn't be.
It doesn't need to
like,
be,
it doesn't need to be necessarily. And it's so important to build that base. And yes, exposure to shows at a higher rate, especially in the beginning. And you could define the beginning as the beginning of your career in totality, like when you're an amateur, and maybe even the beginning as being a pro. Exposure to those sort of shows is a good thing.
Sure.
But at a certain point, it's like, okay, you know where your weaknesses are.
Right.
And just competing every other weekend or every fourth weekend or every eighth weekend isn't going to get you necessarily better at that. So
and you're used to the idea, you're used to what you get in experience from doing lots of shows. You're used to performing in front of a crowd.
Oh, yeah.
You're used to performing on somebody else's time. You know, when it's your time to go, you gotta
Strange
go,
equipment.
Strange equipment. Like, you're used to that. You're good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You have the skills.
Right. And it's when we talk about the injury stuff, like there's a lot of this like kind of like dogmatic stuff that your system is trying to sort of turn around, where it's like you said, like injuries is like, well, yeah, we all get injured all the time. That's just what happens. And also this idea that we should all kind of feel like shit all the time too,
Right.
which I think is something that your program address or your coaching addresses pretty well. Is this notion that it's like, yep, I feel like shit, so I must be doing everything right. You know what I mean? Where it's like, you don't always have to feel like shit doing strongman.
No, and listen, and you're going to a certain phase of
course,
training,
yeah.
but that shouldn't be year round. And I always like to use, this is my favorite example, and I use it as an example when I talk to these Canadian pros and they reach out to me. I'm like, okay, guys, who is the best Canadian of all time besides Hooper? Who is the best Canadian of all time?
JF Cron.
Cool. When was JF actually at his best? What year was it? When he really hit a stride?
Like the podium at WSM probably.
Exactly. What year was that?
2020.
2020.
2020.
Why did JF compete really well at 2020 World Strongest Man?
Less competitions to do.
Why was that?
COVID.
A fucking pandemic is the only reason why that man didn't compete. The world had to turn off for JF Karan to be like,
People
I'll
had
stay
to
home.
die.
Right, like millions of humans literally had to reach their demise for JF to take a seat finally. And then what happened? He whooped ass.
Yeah, he did.
It's like, oh, dude, you were like rested.
Yeah.
What a weird coincidence. You showed up actually prepared and peaked.
Yeah.
And then you beat the brakes off of everybody. And frankly, if you didn't make one minor mistake in the log medley, JF would have been the world's strongest man. Right? So that's my favorite example because he's the king of competing a lot. But when the king had to take a seat for a moment and actually sit in his throne and look around, he was the best he was ever been.
Yeah, that's so true.
And that's so important to realize these things,
Yeah,
especially as you're coming from a Canadian pro system.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting. Actually, it's funny to hear it put that way, but it's very true.
People had to die.
People had to
For him to
people had
just, like,
people
chill for a
millions
little
had
bit.
to perish.
I hope he finds that hilarious. Not the deaths, because that's sad. But the fact that the world
people
had to
dying
turn
isn't
off.
good, but JF Karan being very strong is good.
Yeah.
So we'll start to wrap this up here a little bit here, but let's get some predictions here for the Arnolds.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So let's start with the very basic things. What's your podium for the men's side?
In no particular order.
Sure.
Lucas Hatton, Mitchell Hooper, and Austin Andrade.
Awesome, love it. I love that because there's two names on there that you wouldn't have said 2 years ago or 3 years ago. You know what I mean? Like it's just like there's a real shake up here of
I think
these
that's
guys.
our podium.
Yeah, I like that a lot. With ladies' side,
In no particular order yet again, Inez Carrasquillo, Angelica Jardine, Rebecca Roberts.
awesome. Okay, cool. I like it a lot. Who comes in last place? No, I'm just kidding.
That's so mean. That's so mean. James Jefferson.
He knows
He was
he's
never
This guy must listen to the show because he knows our sense of humor around here. Awesome. Okay. Where can people reach you if they should feel so inclined?
If you feel so inclined to message me, of all people, Instagram is great. Alec Jose on Instagram, and that's pretty much it.
Great.
Yeah.
If you speaking of Alec, like, as if he's not here, if you ever get a chance to go to an Alec Jose seminar, to take in some of the knowledge that he has, like I truly think that everybody who came in today is leaving like a more educated, better strongman competitor. Take advantage of these things if they come your way, because this guy's got a mind unlike most in strongman, in strength sports in general. And it was really, excuse me, it was really just like a pleasure just to get a chance to sit and listen to you and also see you like learn a new way to like impart this kind of knowledge, because it was pretty in-depth stuff that you're getting out there, and we had people of all different ability levels and and comprehension levels of strongman, and I think that you made it very accessible to everybody.
I really appreciate it, man. It means a lot to me, and ultimately, I love doing things like this. And yeah, it's just, even if I wasn't getting paid, like, this is something that I probably end up doing in some way, shape, or form anyway. I really just enjoy it, simply put. And hopefully some of the things I say are correct enough to make someone better out there.
Love it. So make sure you guys check out the Arnolds. I'm sure everyone watching this will be watching the Arnolds anyway. But if you weren't, watch it. Watch out for Alec in the background, coaching the very best athletes in the world today.
Can't miss the hair.
You cannot miss that. You will see it. And a little bit more into the future, watch North America's Strongest, however it might be presented to us, for Alec to be coaching some of the best Canadian and American strongmen.
Guess so.
Going in the game today.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Alec. I really appreciate you sitting here with us and for everything you did this weekend, man.
Thank you, and thank you for everyone watching.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you guys next week.
Hooray!
Maybe, whenever we see you.
Or whenever, yeah.